Hello everyone. Today I'll be reviewing Happer's Comet, a film by Tyler Taormina released to Blu-ray in 2023 by Factory 25. I purchased it through Vinegar Syndrome. Composed as a 65-minute experimental film, it was shot at night in the suburbs of Long Island during the COVID pandemic. Though the film could have plenty to say about our feelings surrounding those moments, I'd like to discuss the film on what I believe to be more universal terms. Let's do so now. Happer's comet etymology, I suppose, could be compared to Halley's Comet, an astronomical event occurring every 75 to 79 years. If we compare this rarity to Halley's Comet, I suppose we can approximate the movie to the prevailing issue of pandemics and our occasional responses to them. In that way, Happer's Comet is an art film following a set of characters as they wordlessly address this newfound alienation from their immediate circumstances. Along the way, we find ourselves privy to a set of images that arrange themselves in what appear to be leitmotifs. Characters sneak out of the house to go rollerblading. Close-ups of technology reveal latent messages. Corn begins and ends the film. Water undulates as we reveal ourselves and then plunge back in. Vain men examine their bodies. Several bodies watch television, or are asleep in front of televisions, or have their dogs watch television for them. There is a fetish for empty upholstery and furniture, with mothers in particular getting in and out of them, as a kind of recursive toddler longing for their absence and presence. Dancing leaves, what Joan Didion might mean when she used the word gloaming, as we see well-lit suburban streets illuminating black asphalt. You have this desire to think of the maudlin night scenes from Donnie Darko, insomnia from hockey fans, oscillating lights from cars passing by as it glides across the front bay windows. At the beginning of the film, many of these shots seem anchored towards a specific set of rules. The camera rests statically to connote depth, or is intimately close up, or the camera will pan from darkness to light. After this establishment of images, we start to see a dynamism as the people we're introduced to take on the role of very minor characterizations, and there begins to be some connective tissue between the shots. I happen to think that the film is less coherent than something like Last and First Men, another art installation feeling project, but with the desire to accentuate a text. Here, clearly, the visuals and sound design must serve as the text, and while it doesn't quite serve a singular purpose, I would be willing to combat anyone who dismisses the film as directionless, a 3 out of 5 for coherence. Having grown up in suburbs, I was willing to attach myself to the feelings the images in this minimalistic affair evoked. What happens when the big other is asleep? Throughout the film, police patrol cars shine their lights, and at the end, a patrol boat. You get the sense by the end of the film that we snuck out and got away with it. Throughout the film, people leave their homes to go rollerblading as they enter the night with the distinct pleasure of feeling allowed to be ridiculous, an occasion that adults hardly get to experience. But while the film may attempt to connote this feeling, I was unable to settle into its attempts, like a Rothko painting, to reverberate, given certain lighting conditions. The film is a testament to the detail brought out by camera technology in low-light conditions. While the scenes do invite speculation through metaphor of just what people might be getting up to late at night, it lacks a certain American darkness of the kind we might expect from the witching hour. If I were to have a Halloween party, and I were to choose something to show on a projector or television as a kind of ambient experience, it would be harder to justify this than an old horror movie that brings with it the subtle terror of nostalgia. That being said, I am not altogether clear on if that was the film's intention. Instead, the emotions linger more on the fun and whimsical, something much lighter, though it does begin rather dramatically with an obvious nod to Lynch's Blue Velvet that set me up for more fatalistic noir instead of magical enchantment. The images in the first half of the film are far more indelible than those in the second, which perhaps added to this feeling. For a splitting of emotional outcomes, I think a 2 out of 5 works best here. While we have the COVID angle of the film, we also get to experience a kind of nocturnal Edward Hopper's night in the life. Characters in Happer's Comet feel themselves spontaneously gifted with creative insight, the way we all do at night when we feel intellectually electric. Characters approach beds where a teenager disguised they're sneaking out. Auto repair night shift workers get the sudden fear of death and start to do push-ups. A dog walker looks around suspiciously before Google searching POV porn, only to backspace and search for something far more interesting. It's the movement of characters taking action, of being the movement rather than time seeming always to pass by them or through them. In that way, it is the neurotic's chance to do something about their desires, while the big other is not looking, and the end result is a rather good time, if it also happens to be lacking in the sort of punishment we might expect. Another character is nodding off while behind the wheel, with the double yellow lines veering on both the left and right sides of the vehicle, yet no crash is heard. A man recording bird sounds listens fondly with his eyes closed in the middle of the street, not seeing the headlights shine brighter on the pallor of his skin, yet no collision occurs. If we can express something about the film's ties to COVID, it is the anxious aggression the film takes to the idea that though we may see the world as a functioning of society by day, society hangs by a thread at night. For a film that is able to address several interesting readings, though without giving a clear strength to any of them, a 4 out of 5 seems apt. Few films are willing to give an account without embedding it to narrative, quite like Happer's Comet, though truth be told, we do get similar arcs in the narrative. Characters are introduced, planning to act on their desires, and then they do, and we are brought up short, perhaps surprised, in the conclusion of the film, which takes place in a cornfield. It has the bare bones of an allegory without the moralizing, which is a nice touch. But equally, because it lacks Lynch's psychoanalytic understanding, or Donnie Darko's one-liners, Happer's Comet sits uneasily as a film. Rollerblading can clearly be a metaphor for a variety of activities that people do in the dark, but without further investment into storytelling, it cannot match an event with specificity in the same way that the shots do. Many of the combinations of sound and image, particularly in that first 20 minutes of the film, introduce us to a suburb that feels like an organism. The pool growls and burbs, the sprinklers weave back and forth, and the grass reflects water droplets in a field that suggests the arrival of a mystical being. One can sense the momentum and excitement of uncovering the tones of the suburbs, but the film realizes further in that there is a need for characters, otherwise it satirizes itself, veering too close to the filming of a plastic bag in the film American Beauty. In this way, I think the wordless rollerblading might have saved the film, and when reading the companion essays that came with the Blu-ray disc, one gets the sense that this image was the cornerstone plot point. I felt the film to be tapping originally into certain material, but I had trouble bringing it back out to us. An original score of 4 out of 5 works here. I like what Happer's Comet is attempting, but I want more films to do this but better. By the end I had a longing, not empathetically towards the setting and the feelings that it instilled, but rather in the desire to see more autofictional films attempt to strip back as much as possible the narrative underpinnings, while still making thematic suggestions. I want the first moments of this film brought to fruition, carried to their limits. Instead, I think Happer's Comet is a great film to discuss with friends immediately after watching, but I don't believe it to be a film to rewatch, even to attach oneself to a specific mood. A combined score of 3.25 out of 5, I hope, will convey a general excitement towards the film, but with a certain tangential desire that sprung up that I was not expecting. If you like films that exist between experimental films, art installation projects, or the editing power of documentaries by Adam Curtis, I think you should give this a chance. Thanks for watching.